Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of AngularAir. I'm your host, Justin Schwarzenberger, and on today's episode, we are going to learn about some advanced NX stuff. Super looking forward to it. Can't wait. So why don't we dive into it? We'll say hi to our panelists, and then we'll meet our guests, and then we'll get to the content. Mm-hmm. All right. Joining us today, we've got Mike. Mike, what's going on?
Not too much. Just getting settled in. Just got back to my keyboard, but other than that, not too bad. Excited for today's show.
Nice. I feel like I'm a little hyped up, and you're like just very calm and ready to go.
I'm forcing myself to act calm. Things were a little hectic around the house just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
So I'm trying to take a deep breath in.
Nice.
But in here, it's not what's going on.
Chaos up here. All right, cool. But the outside, all right, ready. Alyssa, how's it going?
I'm like, where's my mute button and how does it work? I'm doing great. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And our guest today, Isaac. Isaac, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm really excited to be here.
We are stoked to have you here finally. Been working on it for a little bit, but got you here, so it's great.
Yep.
All right, do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm an architect with Narwhal. I work with clients. We do consulting, and 1 day a week we do work on open source tools like NX and some other things. And so I've personally done some video courses teaching how to use NX. So there's 2 different courses that I've done. I've done a free intro to NX course that's useful for like any developer that's using an NX workspace. And then there's a paid advanced NX workspace course that is that's for like an architect, somebody who is like setting up the workspace, doing more advanced things that usually only a handful of people in a workspace would need the more advanced stuff. So they're setting things up so that everyone else is using NX to its full capabilities.
Very nice. Yeah. Right. Do you want to give a rundown really quick on what NX is for people that might not know? I mean, we got the advanced episode, so
sure.
Hopefully people come in with some knowledge, but let's catch everybody up.
So NX helps you manage your a TypeScript monorepo. So monorepo is where you have multiple applications all in one Git repository. And the benefit of this is that you can easily share code across multiple applications. You can split code up. But the problem with a monorepo is that anytime you make a change, in order to make sure that nothing's broken, you have to run all the tests across all the applications. And the more code you put in, the slower those tests get because you're running them all. And what NX does, it helps manage, the biggest thing it does is it helps manage that complexity by giving you some tools to only run the tests that are affected by a particular change. So if you make a change over here in this library, you only test that library and anything that depends on it. And it has some other things as well. So that's kind of the core of NX. And then there's like 6 to 10 plugins that are also managed by Narwhal that add functionality on top of that base layer that help you to configure things like Jest or an Angular project or a React project, and give you some tools for managing that.
That sounds very infomercially, but wait, there's more.
I know, right? Well, the thing is, it's set up to be a pluggable system, so you can always just add more stuff in, and so it's got this base layer, and then you add whatever you want to on top of that.
And then when it comes to Angular type work, that's building on top of the Angular CLI, right?
Correct.
Enhance that.
Yep. So the all the plugins, an NX plugin is just an Angular CLI builder or multiple builders, and Angular CLI schematics, and just a way of bundling those things together. And there's 2 different kinds of schematics. There's schematics that are for like generating code, and there's schematics that are for migrating your configuration from one version to the next version. And so then just an NX plugin is just those things all put together, and then some conventions around how you do those migrations.
You make it sound so simple when I know it's not. Like, And that's all it is. There
Right.
you have
Well,
it.
yeah. So the thing is that there's this huge list of vocabulary terms when you start to get into it, and it can get really overwhelming. Like the idea of a builder and the idea of schematics, that's just the top level like vocabulary, and those by themselves are not completely obvious what they do just from the name. And then when you dig into them, there's even more vocabulary inside of there that you have to kind of unpack. And so yeah. So it's hard to dive in from like when you're first getting started. There's a steep learning curve.
And then there's stuff for test runner, right, as well, and linting.
Yeah. So the testing is just another like a builder can be. So a schematic is anything that modifies your code. So it can create new code or it can modify existing code. And a builder is basically everything else. So a builder could build your project. A builder could test your project, lint your project. A builder could just display a funny message in the console. And just anything you want that can be take your code as an input, but doesn't necessarily modify your code as an output.
Nice. And then it's also, so when we're talking about Angular, which is our main focus here,
Yep.
We're talking about it's on top of the CLI, but NX is also something you could use without the Angular CLI, right?
Correct. Yeah. So NX, it's started out in the Angular community. Let's see, spring of last year, we expanded. It was already like the core Angular CLI has very little that is directly tied to Angular itself. And so we kind of leveraged that idea and we just made some builders and schematics that worked for a React project, because we have lots of clients that have both Angular and React in their company. And since we're trying to advocate for the idea of a monorepo, we've got some teams working on Angular projects and another team working on a React project, and they want to be able to share their code, some like, helper utilities or whatever. And in order to get the React team on board, the React company on board, we need to have schematics and builders that will make their lives easy, as well as the Angular schematics that help for an Angular project.
So for like the non-Angular community who want to get started with NX, is the Angular CLI still included as part of the library, or is it pure NX without the Angular CLI base?
So the Angular dev kit is included. So there's still that.
Well, that's where the logic for actually executing the builders lives. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So executing all the architect logic, which is the builders and the schematics and all that. So that's all included. We don't have. We wrote basically a copy of the ng command. We're calling NX, which does ng plus a few other commands. And that's just because people who are starting a pure React project might get frustrated at having to type ng something if they're opposed to Angular on I don't know, philosophical principles or whatever.
Are you saying that some front end developers may be biased to one technology over another?
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that exists somewhere.
Opinions. Everybody has opinions. So I know we're going to talk about advanced stuff, but I heard that just got added the ability to add Storybook through NX.
Yes. Yeah. So I worked on that, which I'm really excited about. So the adding Storybook is, so I wrote a schematic that will add the Storybook configuration to an existing project, an existing library. And the idea behind the schematic is to make it easy to, I feel like I'm just doing a lot of talking and not showing. Let me see if I can show, well, that's fine. I'll just talk about it. So the idea is to show, to create an easy way to set up, to use Storybook to test a UI library. So you starting with any NX workspace that has some UI library, you can run this Storybook schematic, and that will create create the Storybook configuration for that UI library that will launch Storybook and serve those UI components. But then also you can, with an option in that schematic, it can create an end-to-end application that will create a Cypress end-to-end application that will point at that Storybook instance. so that you can run your end-to-end tests on those UI components in isolation, which is a nice way of testing your UI components as you're building them out.
So
Nice.
to be clear, you mentioned that you're setting that up on a per project basis.
Yes.
We're talking about this in the context of a monorepo where you can potentially have multiple libraries.
Yep. Lots of libraries.
You would have to run through that setup to be able to use Storybook for each of those libraries, just to be clear for people.
Yeah, so the existing, so in the long-term plans, I'd like to have a easy way to kind of combine multiple libraries together into one Storybook. But the first version of the Storybook schematic is just for a single library and a single Storybook per library.
Because some Storybook's better than no Storybook.
Right. Right. Okay. And you can always add if you can set up your own configuration for Storybook, you could do that at the root level and define what paths it should pull in, what stories files it should pull in to create the global level Storybook. It's just not going to do that automatically for you.
Hey, that was cool. That was going to be my question. So
yeah,
awesome. All right, well, should we dive into the advanced stuff?
Yes, everyone is in the chat saying show.
Okay. What is the best way to create a custom NX command? Hey, we're going to start talking about some of that. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. So let me move this off the side. Okay. So I'm just going to show real quick. So this is on YouTube. This is a playlist that has the free basic NX Workspace course. So you can go here and I can, so just search for NX on YouTube and you can look in the playlist and there's the NX Workspace course for free there. Also for the advanced NX Workspace course, if you go to nxplaybook.com, this is the advanced NX Workspace course, which has lots of things in here. Folder structure conventions, how to add tags to your libraries to kind of restrict how they depend on each other. How to create schematics, creating builders. Let me expand that. I go through doing a code migration in a large workspace, how you could move. If you have a library that's on one version and lots of different applications are using it, you could. Sometimes it's hard to migrate to a new version of that library, a new a new API for a particular function. And so what this code migration section will walk you through is how to make two different versions of that function, and then create schematics that will migrate one library at a time and ensure that once that library has been migrated over to using version 2, then it will have a lit rule in there that will stop anyone from going back to version 1. And so it helps keep the momentum pushing people towards using the future versions of the library. And then there's the last section on how to set up CI with NX using NX affected and some distributed, how to do distributed builds across multiple instances in your CI pipeline. Okay, so what I'm going to focus on today, and how much time do we have? Okay, good. We got 45 minutes. Good. Is the schematics and builders. So I'm not just going to go through all the content that's in here. I'm going to actually focus on. So this is an article that was just put out last week, I think, on what's new in NX 8.12. And this paragraph here talks about a new schematic created by John Camasuli, who just started in Narwhal in January, and he's already created this really neat schematic that will automatically set up a workspace for you to create your own NX plugin. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at making our own NX plugin that does some silly things, but in the process of doing that, we'll be working on making a builder and a schematic. So we'll do some live coding here, and hopefully things don't go too much off the rails. All right. So Let's make that full screen. All right, so to get started, we'll do npx nx create nx plugin here. So just so you know, if to create a new NX workspace, you can do npx create NX workspace, and that'll create a whole new blank NX workspace. But if you want to make a plugin for other people to use, let's say, actually, let me go back here. Actually, what we can do right here. If you do, let's see, do I have NX installed globally? NX list. No, okay. All right. I'll go to code. Okay. So NX list, I'm inside of an NX workspace here, and NX list shows the installed plugins that I have and the available plugins that Narwhal provides. And so you can see there are things like Jest and Node and Narwhal Workspace, Angular and Storybook here, but there and React is also available. But what if the list of plugins here does not provide the functionality that you want? Say you wanted a Narwhal View or like an NX plugin for View or an NX plugin for people have asked for plugins for like mutation testing with Striker, and I mean everyone has their own thing that they would like to be included and incorporated in. So if you want to do that, then you can make your own plugin like this. I'm going to cd code. Okay, so you go to the directory that you want to put this workspace in, and you do npx create NX plugin. And I'm going to do -help here so we can see what the options are. Okay. So you give it the name of your workspace. So we'll call this NGAir, and then you give it the name of your plugin. And so I'm going to make a plugin that will use this this cowsay utility in from NPM. And if you don't know what cowsay does, it does this. And this this cowsay here is in honor of Alyssa and her
Love it.
her talk about. She had a talk about that had something to do with cows, but I forget what the title was. Hello, Alyssa.
It's service workers and cows, a love story.
Okay, there you go. So what it does is it takes whatever text you have and puts it in this ASCII art. So it's very useful. I'm sure everyone will want to incorporate this into their workspace. But that's what we're going to do. So we're going to call it the workspace is going to be called NGAir, and the plugin name is cowsay.
If you don't pass a plugin name, does it just make up one?
I think it's required. It just won't do anything. But I'm not sure. You can try it. All right, so it's installing. It's making this workspace.
There's a question in the chat from Brocco. He wants to know if this terribly useful plugin will be published.
We could do that.
Wait.
We could publish it if you want.
Did you just ask
The real question is, could we get
questions about
it
yourself?
adopted by Narwhal?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of this create NX plugin schematic is that you can make something that Narwhal does not have to maintain. So all the people who are asking for things and not wanting to maintain it themselves, they can do it and they can maintain it. And then if it's really useful and we want to, make it official, like included in the NX list command, then you can open an issue on the NX repo, and then we could talk about putting it into the NX list command. Okay.
You should know that's exactly why Schematics was created as well. So
You're right.
you didn't have to maintain all of the options, and people
Yep.
can create their own schematics.
Okay, so I'm going to do code NGAir here. All right, so this is what it makes for us. So it makes a library here. That's the Cowsay plugin, and it has a builder, a Cowsay builder here inside of the builders folder, and a schematic inside of the schematics folder. And these are referenced here in a builders.json. That's just the configuration file that's needed for the Angular CLI or the NX CLI to know that there are builders here. And there's the collection.json that references the schematic. And so just out of the box here, we can run NX build Cowsay, and it will build it. And we've got something over here. It's something, it doesn't do anything yet, but we can run NX test Cowsay, and it will execute the unit tests. It's got an end-to-end application setup here that runs some end-to-end tests on the commands. And so the schematic takes care of all this configuration stuff for you, so that you can dive right into making your plugin. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to we don't need this window anymore. I'm going to go to this Cowsay. Okay, yes, accept cookies. I'm going to install Cowsay here. Yarn add Cowsay.
All about that yarn, huh?
Yeah. And then go down here, and I'm going to use this to make our plugin. So let's see. So by default, the builder just logs something to the console. So instead of that, we're going to paste that in, and instead of builder ran for Cowsay, we're going to do Cowsay.say, and it takes text. And it would be nice to pass in some sort of message here, so that the person who's executing this builder can decide what the message is going to be. So let's set that up here in our schema. 223. And so we'll make let's see, properties, message, and I think it's type. Make that a string, and we'll update. Okay, that's right. And we'll update this schema file here and give it a message that's a string. Save that. Save this. Okay, now the options object that gets passed in here gets its value from the schema.ts file. So we can just use options.message. Okay, so we're going to pass that in. Now, okay, so now let's look at this end-to-end test here and see if it's. So here's our end-to-end test. So this runs. So it's an end-to-end test that runs jest and does a mock command line basically. So unique of Cowsay just adds a random string to the Cowsay string. So it's going to be different each time. Ensure NX project makes a temporary NX repo inside of a temp folder. And then run NX command async simulates running this command on the command line. So this would be like typing NX generate NGAir Cowsay, the Cowsay builder. And then plugin is the string that was created up here. So when we run this, so I'm going to run NX E2E Cowsay E2E. And this will probably fail, hopefully fail.
So Lance Finney in the chat said earlier that he set up an NX project recently for a client and that your videos were incredibly helpful and awesome. So,
well, thank you.
yeah.
So the thing about making videos is you can cut out all of this waiting time. So I just type my command and then half second later it's done and we move on to the next thing. But when I'm doing it live, we have to wait. So this is expecting our output to have the string builder ran. And that string was there before, but now that string is not going to be present because we've replaced it with cowsay. Okay, there we go. So should create cowsay and can I read property join if undefined. Okay, so I messed up my syntax here. Cowsay.say. Text options.message. And I ran into this error earlier and I'm trying to remember what it was. Cowsay.say is right. And it's a string. It's an object with text. Options.message. Oh, maybe let's see. Wait, generate is not the right. Sorry. Should create cowsay. No, here we go. Yeah, build plugin. That's right. Let me try this with. Let me just give it a default property here. I think I'm probably not passing in the a message correctly in our end-to-end test. And yeah, okay, we'll do that. Okay, and then here, passing in plugin and dash message. This is how we would set up the message option in the builder. We're going to say hi AngularAir. I think that's right. Panelists, you can help pair program with me if I'm got some syntax wrong.
That unique call for the plugin or the plugin value?
Here, up here.
On line 10, yeah. What does that do? Does that generate a single string? Does it generate?
Yeah, so it makes a new string. It'll give you something like dash cowsay. So all it does is it makes a random string and tacks it on the beginning of this string, so that it's testing to make sure that there's nothing hard coded in your builder. So it's not expecting this particular string to show up.
And definitely does not contain spaces. I think that's what Justin was getting at.
Yes, it does not contain spaces.
Okay.
Is that the message? Is that supposed to be the message? That'll be the
Okay.
value that goes in the message, or?
So this plugin gets first what's happening here is that it's running a schematic which creates a library here with this name. That's what this does. And then run nx command async down here. This is launching our builder. That's gonna log out a console message. So what happened when we ran our end-to-end tests here? It did what I expected the first time, and so it expected builder ran, but instead it logged out this, which is moo. So let's do, instead of to contain, let's do dot to match inline snapshot. And
You didn't want to put that ASCII art string in there?
no. Okay, so we'll launch that end-to-end test, and apparently 48 seconds later we'll have our results. So that's working on that. Let's see. People have other questions while we're waiting on this. We could look at. There's also some unit tests that are generated by default here. And this options property.
You go, Mike. You go, Mike.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for those who aren't familiar with the Builder API, like myself, are those extensible? Like, can you have your builder call another builder and chain those together?
Yes.
Okay. So if I wanted to have potentially a pre or post task surrounding the default CLI builder, then I could definitely do that here.
Yes. So I have not personally done that. I've done that with schematics. I haven't personally done that with builders. But you can do whatever you want inside of here. So this is just an observable, and you can put whatever you want before and after this tap, or even replace this with something else. And let's see what else. I mean, there's I don't remember the functions offhand. There we go. Run builder. Does that? Yeah. Nope. Run builder is this function itself. There's a yeah. I don't know offhand, but yes. The short answer is yes. You can do that. So this end-to-end test completed successfully, but let's see what the inline snapshot is. So here it says hi AngularAir, and it's got the ASCII art, but with the backslashes escaped. Yeah. So that's working. And so this builder could do anything. It could be executing some build script. It could be running tests. It could be doing whatever you can, whatever you imagine. So let's go to a schematic here. And so this default schematic, what it does is it creates, let's see, schematic, function, normalize options. Okay. So this default schematic does a update workspace. Add projects to JSON entry. So this schematic is updating our Angular.json or Workspace.json files to add a build command to it, which is, well, here, let me actually show you what gets generated by the end-to-end test when you run them. So here in the temp folder, it creates an NX E2E and a proj folder. And inside of here is another NX workspace, which is basically where your plugin is being used. And so it's created this workspace.json, which is essentially the Angular.json renamed. It has taken this default Cowsay 7906 project, and then it added the schematic added this builder to it. Build, and the builder is the ng-air Cowsay build. And it also, let's see, so you can see that in in package.json, does it have, yeah, so also in the package.json, it automatically added our Cowsay plugin here. So you can even go into this temp directory here and run whatever ng commands or nx commands you would normally do in an NX workspace, NX build, and it's, what was the library was named Cowsay 7906, if I can type. And this runs your plugin that you just made with your code, but in this temporary repo. And we could do -- message hello, and it does what we coded up to do. So that's pretty cool. It's all that is set up automatically for you.
And is it just the build command, or like could we define what command we want?
you can absolutely define what command you want. And so let's go into, we'll just do this manually. But you can make your schematic do whatever you want it to do. So I'm just going to change this string to anything I want. Call it hocus pocus. And now instead of NX build, so build is a special string that NX and the Angular CLI know how to use. But if you have a custom string there, then you need to use NX run and then put the name here, the name of the task. Oops, I spelled it wrong. So if that was build here, and save that here, you can do NX run. So this, if I can type, this is the exact same thing as NX build. It's just a NX build cow say whatever is just a shortcut for this syntax. So if you're going to do a custom string there, you have to execute it like this.
Yeah. To be
NX
clear,
run or ng run. Go ahead, Brocky.
Yeah. To be clear, the NX run, that string actually can have 3 parts. The first part is the project name.
Yes.
The
Yep.
second part is the command name that you gave underneath architect. And then the third one, also delimited by a colon, can be a configuration underneath there. So you could have multiple flavors of that with different options defaulted underneath the builder as well.
Yeah. So you do, and actually sometimes you want to use a command from a different. Actually, never mind. I'm gonna backtrack what I said. I was talking about schematics.
Okay. One more thing really quick to that.
Yep.
Okay, so just to put it in context of like where we might want to use that, say we have a project in here, an application for creating Angular elements, right? And it's an app, and we build it, and it builds into multiple JS files. We want to add the functionality to bundle all those into a single JS file. We could build a plugin like this for the builder, call it bundle, and use it in fashion like the hocus pocus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you could call it deploy or release or docs to generate docs. However you do that in your organization, there's all sorts of things you could do with this.
What's really cool about that is like something we might want to we end up solving maybe with like a separate JavaScript file or a Node file, and we just call that from our package JSON. Now we're putting it into the workflow of the architect of the CLI, which is
right. So you can often in a lot of our client projects, we've got people put scripts inside of this tools folder, and those can do all sorts of different things. But the benefit of taking that script and putting it into a builder or into the architect process is you could do something like, so if this was, I don't know, docs, and you wanted to generate docs for all the libraries that were affected by particular PR change, you can do that really easily when it's inside, when it's a builder. If you have it as its own custom script, then you lose all that, the NX affected capability. So if you wanted to do, you could do NX affected target equals docs. And let's see, that's not going to work because I haven't made any changes. So I could do. There you go. No project with docs will run. Let's see, save that. Okay, well, it might be confused because it's not a real repo, and that the Git history doesn't actually exist in this temp directory. But that's the idea. That's the reason why you'd want to make your own put your own custom scripts into this workflow, because then you can leverage the NX affected command.
Can I
okay.
practice this question?
Go ahead.
So I could see these builders potentially changing fluidly with a project or a set of projects. for best practice, is it best to leave these builders in a separate repo, or is it okay to have them live side by side inside of your main NX workspace?
I would put them all in the same repo, monorepo for the win. And if you want to, that's a great question, because John also created a way to add a new NX plugin to an existing monorepo. All you have to do is I need to go back to the main NGAir workspace. You just do yarn add narwhal NX plugin. And then let's see. Let me see if I can. So this PR, this documentation PR is ready, but it has not been merged in. So you're getting cutting edge stuff here. I just need to find the command that I'm supposed to run. Builder testing end to end, including assets. Nope, it's up here. Here we go. Yep. Install. Nope, not there. There we go. So there's a schematic that is included in this plugin here that will make a new plugin. So say instead of cow say, we want to do I don't know, Yoda say, which I just saw on NPM is a thing. I don't even know what it does, so I'm not going to execute it here. But
guess what it does? I can. I'm out.
Yes. So then this just makes another library that says that's called Yoda say with a end-to-end project that links to it and sets up the the workspace.json or angular.json, so it's has the right configuration here. All right. So yes, I would keep it in the same monorepo so it can be used here. But then you can build it and publish it for other people and other organizations to use if you want to. That's the value of having your own NX plugin as opposed to having your own custom builders and your own custom schematics that just live inside of your own repo. Okay. So the same idea goes for schematics here. So this default schematic makes a file here with this setup, and so I'm just going to change this to, instead of declaring a variable, I'm going to call it your friend the cow, and it takes some input from the schematic file here, and so I'm going to go find that. So oops. So I'm not going to dive too deep into all the things that schematic does, but basically this function here is what defines what is available to this template file. And so I'm going to define the cow here to be, and I need to get that that code from up here. Now this is being sloppy, but that's okay. I'm going to take this. Cow say, and we'll just call this options dot. We'll say options dot project name. Sure. Okay, so now that goes there, and so I'm going to run the end-to-end tests here. So this one, so this one is testing the schematic itself. It's testing that this file exists, but we also want to test that the file contents are what do we expect it to be. So we'll take this same string here. what's going on. Path stream. I think I'm importing the wrong read file. Yep, that's the wrong read file. That's the one we want. And expect that to match snapshot. There we go. So now we'll run the end-to-end test here. NX run ETE, cow say ETE, and then we'll see. Oh, wrong way. You can either do NX ETE, cow say ETE, or you can do NX run with the ETE at the end here. So I was just mixing syntax. So that this schematic is for creating new code, and it can do all sorts of different things. It can modify things. It can create new code, and all sorts of excitement. So say you had your own I don't know, special flavor of Angular, or maybe you wanted to be extra opinionated about how your organization creates Angular apps and libraries. So you can create your own schematic for adding a route, or your own schematic for creating a new component in a particular way that your organization always creates components with this particular structure. And so this is what the file contents will look like that. So const your friend the cow equals this string. So that's creating a schematic and a builder. And then if you want to, you can nx build cow say, which packages it up and sticks it in the dist folder up here. And it's up here. And what's in the dist folder, you can run npm publish on that dist libs cow say directory and send it off to npm. But I'm not signed in, and I don't have access to the @ngair organization on npm. But if you did, that you'd be done. You'd have something ready to ship.
So if I'm building a plugin, then it can have a builder and have schematics, or it could have just schematics.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So
Okay.
if you want to add, so you can have multiple schematics to the same thing. So if you in here, so in this default one has one schematic and one builder. But if you want to, you can add a new folder in here. Let's see, new folder, cow think, and then copy all this stuff over there, and then in this here we've got this builder, the build builder, but you could make a cow think builder here. Yeah. So that's how you could bundle two different builders in the same plugin, and the same thing goes for schematics. You can make multiple schematics and register them in the collection.json and bundle them all together and ship them off. And you can obviously, I mean, you could delete this and have no schematics. All right,
Very cool.
we're close to the end. I have one other thing to show off, unless you have burning questions.
I do have one small question.
Yep.
So then if I publish that, and I had my own NX repo already ready to go, and I want to add, you publish that, and I want to add your plugin to my existing NX repo.
Yep.
What would the command look like at that point? Is it just like an NPM install with the
Yep.
that name?
Yeah, it would just be npm install. In this case, it would be add ngair/cowsay, and that would install it. If you made a an ng add schematic here, then you could do ng add ngair cowsay, and that would execute this schematic while it's installed, when it's installed.
And that's how we would tie into like automatic adding those architect entries into the existing
Right.
JSON if it's there and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is actually here. I'll just do it this way. There is a new feature that was just added to NX, local caching, and we're working on distributed caching. But so the idea here is that you can run. So let me just show you how to do this in your NX.json file. You just take this configuration here, and there's a blog post about this. You just copy this, you set up your runner, and you tell it which commands you want it to cache, and it will cache those operations in your node modules folder. So if you run nx build, this is a new repository here. But if you run nx build my app, that was cached, and so it happened almost instantly. Whereas if I were to go in here and make some change here, that'll break the cache, and it'll take a normal amount of time to do that build. So local caching is pretty cool. It's neat from an academic kind of perspective, and it can potentially save you. Like for instance, so now if I do this again, it's almost instantly. But you can also, if I go back to, so this version without the 2 there is still in the cache, so I can run nx build again on that, and it's still cached. So that's pretty cool.
How far
but
back
it doesn't.
does that go?
What's that?
How far back does that go? Like how many?
It goes until you run out of space in your node module. So it stores it inside of .cache nx here, and so that will just save it forever until you blow out node modules or you run out of hard drive space.
I love it.
So that caches both the console output and the file system output. So the dist folder here, I can delete this dist folder and then run this again, and it's still instantaneous, and it put the files back in. So it's just copying over the files from the cache, which is really cool. But you can also work for testing. So the not as useful piece to this, local caching. So that took 6 seconds, and if I run it again, it's happens right away. The not so useful piece to this local caching is that my friend, the other developer friend checks out this same branch, and he runs the tests, and he still has to execute them all on his machine. So it's not speeding him up at all. And if I check out something from master, that's not cached on my machine. So I have to fill up my cache on my machine before I can get the benefit of that. So we're working on a distributed caching system, and that's really exciting for me, because that takes you to the place where the all across your whole organization, if a particular piece of code has already been built, everyone can just use the same cache. If it's been built in CI, then you can just use the same cache. So somebody checks out a brand new branch, like from CI. Somebody wants you to review their PR. You check out their branch. You run build on your machine, and it happens instantly because it's already been run in CI. And so that's really cool.
So cool.
When you say that if something's already been built, at what level is that considered to be built? Is it on a per project basis, or is it on a per application basis? Being that non-publishable libraries don't get built separately.
Yes. So there's a whole blog post, caching. I think that's the one. Oh, I already had it open. Okay. Yeah. So building is the way Webpack works. It builds everything for all the dependencies of the application. So it can't piece together all the libraries that have already been built. So that from that perspective, yes, it'll have to rebuild the whole application every time a change gets made inside of it. But for testing, that can get cached on a per library basis for each project. And linting can be cached, and there are other things that can be cached really well. And theoretically, so here's a blog post that goes through all the pros and cons and ways that the cache can get.
So
can
Bill
get
was
broken.
asking a couple questions about this. Do you know if it works like the Webpack hard source plugin?
I'm not familiar with that plugin.
And then
Sorry.
are there any pitfalls that we should know about with NX caching?
So caching will help you. So the way so Victor wrote the caching plugin, and he set it up so that so caching is very important to not cache when you're not absolutely certain that you can cache, because you'll get into strange, weird bugs that way. So it's anytime you could possibly need to break the cache gets invalidated. So it's not going to solve everything, and it works in concert with the NX affected command. So in both cases, for NX affected and for caching, the worst case scenario is like if you have to rebuild the whole application, if you're something at the bottom of your dependency graph has changed. Neither of those tools is going to speed up your build. So you're gonna have to rebuild everything if something gets changed at the bottom. But NX affected and the caching will help in two different complementary ways to speed up your build in the non worst case scenario.
Okay, very cool. And as far as the distributed
yes,
caching, is the plan for it to work on different operating systems, or?
Yeah, it'll work anywhere that NX works. It's just it's just a plugin to NX itself, and so it's the way. So let me see. Okay. I've lost where I was, but anyway. So basically, whenever you run a command from NX, it just checks to see if there's a cached version of that, and if there is, then it'll just give you that. Otherwise, it will run through what it would normally do. So it's just logic inside of NX to check the cache first. Otherwise, keep going.
Awesome.
Yep. So that's coming soon, and there'll be big announcements for that when that's ready. Why don't I?
I think we're at the top of the hour.
Yep.
So we can wrap it up, and unless there's any last bit of questions on this stuff, we good?
There were two questions early about NX working with Ionic, and then someone just commented that it already does. So I don't know if you could address that.
I have not personally worked on a project with Ionic, but I think it does. that's my very confident answer.
So Nathan Walker, Jeff Welpley, our friends, they did XPlat a while back ago, and XPlat was something that helps adding cross-platform stuff with NX, like Ionic and things. So maybe that's the solution.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's, real quick, where can people find out documentation on NX?
So you can go to nx.dev, and that has all sorts of documentation there. And so we're in the process of expanding that documentation and make it more friendly to newcomers. But we also have blog posts on blog.narwhal.io that will release new updates as new versions come out.
Awesome. Okay. let's do some picks real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. If anybody has any picks, our panelists. Mike, do you have any picks?
I have one final question. We just asked Isaac where we can find more information, but my other question is, where can people find you? If people are looking for you to get in touch with you, or want to say, where can people find you online? Besides Angular.
Right. So on Twitter, I'm at Mann Isaac, and that's the main place. I also blog for Narwhal, and I put out video content and stuff. You can also, I guess this can be my pick. I also am an egghead instructor. So just in December, I posted a new course on state machines with XState, and the course material is in a React app, but the content is perfectly applicable to Angular apps as well. And the whole idea is to be more structured about how you define your state, and be specific about how your state transitions to one setup to another setup.
Very cool. Awesome. All right, I do have a pick, and it is the ZHS theme that you're using, Isaac. I can't tell people what it is because I actually don't know what it is. So maybe you can tell them.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. I mean, it's Oh My ZSH, and I just found a script and I ran it. So I just set this up
Freaking love
a
Oh
few
My
weeks ago.
ZSH.
Yeah.
I love that you're using that.
You can tweet it out or message us, and then we can retweet it and we get it out to everybody.
Okay, sure, I'll do that.
They look cool. So
nice.
Oh, Mike might have one more thing.
I do have a pick. My pick is actually Aaron Frost and myself are doing a 2-day workshop at NGConf this year.
I saw that. Ooh.
And I tweeted about it earlier today. I'll probably go and retweet myself to be a little vain. But that link is out there if you're interested. It's a 2-day workshop on RxJS, and all the patterns that you use that will go through in there will be applicable to Angular apps as well. So should be a good time, good fun.
Register for that. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Hey, Isaac, thanks a ton for coming on, sharing your time and sharing this content. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. That's a wrap. Have a good one, everyone. Take it easy.
Bye.
See ya.